On September the 30th, 1992, tragedy struck the state of Oregon when Trooper Bret Clodfelter of the Oregon State Police was killed in the line of duty. As a tribute to the memory of Trooper Bret Clodfelter, the Oregon State Police has produced this special presentation. My name is Aaron Olson. In the minutes ahead, you will be viewing selected news reports and video footage documenting the hours and days following Bret's death.
Good evening and thank you for joining Eyewitness News tonight. Our top story, the Klamath County Major Crime Team is continuing with their investigation into the shooting of an OSP officer in Klamath Falls. Officer Bret Robert Clodfelter was killed in the line of duty early this morning. The shooting occurred on Altamont Drive just after 1 a.m. Officers from the Oregon State Police, the Klamath Falls Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, and the DA's office are assisting with the investigation. District Attorney Ed Caleb says they do have some leads in this difficult and emotional investigation. He also says he has real strong concerns about this morning's shooting.
A police officer gets shot in cold blood by people that obviously don't care one bit about the rules and the laws that we have in force. I'm very, very angry about it. This is a death penalty case. Hopefully we can make an arrest. Hopefully we can prosecute the person that's responsible for it.
Officer Clodfelter is survived by his wife and 2 children. He was an 8-year veteran of the Oregon State Police. He had been in Klamath Falls for only a short time. Law enforcement agencies in Klamath County are continuing their search for the man they believe shot Oregon State Police Trooper Bret Clodfelter early Wednesday morning. An arrest warrant has been issued for 28-year-old Francisco Manzo Hernandez, otherwise known as Pancho. Klamath County DA Ed Caleb says his office is charging Hernandez with 2 counts of aggravated murder. Currently, a city and county-wide manhunt are being conducted. Caleb says police officers from all agencies are working overtime and volunteering their own time in an effort to apprehend Hernandez.
We got calls from police officers in California that want to come up and help. The community itself, outside the police community, has been almost incredible.
Caleb is now asking for the local Hispanic community for their help in apprehending Hernandez.
Someone could be allowing this individual to stay in their home, not understanding what kind of trouble they could get in if they do. They're looking at a C felony or above if they harbor this individual from the police trying to get him. We're asking for Hispanic leaders to let folks know that, because a lot of people aren't familiar with the laws.
Leaders of the Hispanic community in Klamath Falls met today and asked for cooperation with police and the DA's office in finding Francisco Manzo Hernandez.
Como miembros de la comunidad latina y Grupo Hispanos Unidos, hacemos una petición al público que asista al Departamento de Policía y al fiscal del condado a localizar al señor Francisco Pancho Manzo Hernández, y si algunos tienen información que por favor llamen al 911 o pueden parar a cualquier policía y avisarle de qué es lo que está pasando.
A motive for yesterday morning's shooting is still unknown. An autopsy was performed yesterday afternoon, and the cause of death was 3 gunshot wounds to the head. Funeral services for OSP Trooper Bret Clodfelter are scheduled for Monday at 2 o'clock in the OIT gym. Meanwhile, law enforcement officers continue to feel the loss of Trooper Clodfelter's life. Although he lived in Klamath Falls, he grew up in the Portland area. Today, friends and co-workers talked about Clodfelter's outstanding career.
Risks of the job haunt Lieutenant Patrick Poole today. A state trooper killed in the line of duty reminds him just how fragile life is.
Makes a person more wary of the fact that there are those out there who will do anything to avoid being held accountable for their actions, including killing another person.
Today, friends and colleagues remembered the 8-year police veteran.
What do you remember most about Trooper Clodfelter?
Probably a sense of humor. He was a very easygoing guy.
Lieutenant Bernie Gusto reviewed Clodfelter's application for the state police. He says the trooper wanted to get into law enforcement since he was young. Gusto describes Clodfelter as a hard worker and a nice guy.
It's difficult to talk about it. It's difficult to say goodbye to a guy that you spent some time with and has some a connection to in terms of getting him on the agency and encouraging him to continue. So it's difficult.
Clodfelter's death is also being felt here at the Portland Police Bureau. Back in 1989, he was assigned to the State Youth Gang Strike Force and the Gang Enforcement Team. Clodfelter helped investigate gangs and drugs. Stu Wynn worked with Clodfelter on the Gang Enforcement Team. Officers described the state trooper as extremely dedicated, and that dedication led to a tug-of-war between the state police and Portland police over his continued gang detail. Wynn remembers how proud Clodfelter was to be an officer.
I guess I have a photograph of him assisting our team when we took some opium plants out of a neighborhood in northeast Portland, and standing there with bags of opium in his hands and a grin on his face, and I guess that's the way I'll remember him.
Clodfelter was born and raised in Portland. He lived in Klamath Falls. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children.
And welcome to Eyewitness News tonight. We have some good news to report. After 3 days of an intensive manhunt in Klamath Falls, the man believed to have killed Oregon State Trooper Bret Clodfelter, Francisco Menzo Hernandez, was captured late this afternoon. At about 4:45 this afternoon, law enforcement agencies surrounded this barn off of Altamont Drive, the same street where Clodfelter was shot early Wednesday morning. Today's arrest again created fears in the Altamont neighborhood.
We were on the floor. It was real scary. You know, I mean, my kids were more scared than I was. I had to kind of take control, but I'm glad they caught him. Very glad. First of all, I saw a bunch of policemen coming around the back with guns and coming down the canal bank with the guns and everything. And then I saw the man that they caught climbing over the fence and them chasing after him. They sat there at the side and waited for him for a while, but I'm glad they got him.
Joining us tonight to talk more about today's arrest is Klamath County District Attorney Ed Caleb. Describe what took place this afternoon, Ed.
Kathy, earlier this afternoon, about 3 o'clock, Officer Greg Rote from the City Police developed an informant who gave him a tip about where this particular suspect might be. We developed that tip, did some follow-up, set up a command location out at the Klamath County Fairgrounds to be near where we thought he was going to be. It all happened real fast. About 5 o'clock, the police determined that he was in this barn, and within minutes, troopers John Mogul, Leon Barker, and Don Bertram had him in custody. Very fast, very quick, no violence, nobody got hurt.
Now that he's been arrested, what's next?
Well, the real difficult thing now, we got him off the street. He's the individual charged with a crime. Now we've got to convict him, obviously. That requires proof beyond a reasonable doubt. I contacted the Attorney General's office early in this investigation. They have promised us that they will give us an assistance in prosecution in this case. We'll probably have Byron Chatfield come down and help us prosecute. He's the same one that helped us convict Jesse Pratt. We're not proud. We'll take as much help as we possibly can, and this was a real team effort, and I want to thank you guys for all the stuff you did for us.
Okay, thank you for joining us tonight, Ed.
You bet, Kathy. We're real happy.
Klamath County District Attorney Ed Caleb. As can be expected, the morale at the Klamath Falls OSP office is low as fellow troopers deal with the emotional impact of what has taken place this week. Station Commander Lieutenant Jim Mediger worked with Clodfelter for only a short time, and today talked about the slain officer.
Well, Trooper Clodfelter was probably one of the most dedicated officers that I've known. He was an extremely hard worker. There wasn't anything that you couldn't ask him to do and expect it to be done right. I mean, he just everything that he did was exemplary.
Governor Roberts has issued a proclamation stating that all state and U.S. flags will be flown at half-mast until 5 p.m. on Monday to honor Clodfelter and other officers who have died in the line of duty. Funeral services for Trooper Bret Clodfelter are scheduled for Monday at 2 o'clock in the OIT gym.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kathy Smith.
And I'm Pete Schulberg. Hundreds of police officers in Southern Oregon saluted one of their own today, a state policeman who was shot to death last week. OSP Trooper Bret Clodfelter was slain during a routine traffic stop in Klamath Falls.
Also today, the man accused of the killing appeared in court to face the murder charges for the first time. Tonight, News 8 reporters Larry Shoup and Walden Kirsch are in Klamath Falls. We have 2 live reports beginning with Walden Kirsch. Walden?
Kathy, Klamath Falls here is one of Oregon's smaller cities. Not a lot of people just ordinarily pass on through. But today, police officers from all across the Northwest, and in fact all across the U.S., made it a point to come to Klamath Falls.
And what brings us here, I guess, is because we care when one of ours is taken.
Well, sorrow for the family and sorrow for the officer.
It was a huge procession, at least 5 miles long. Nothing like it has been seen in Oregon in years. Hundreds of law officers saddened by the murder of one of their own, coming now to pay tribute.
I've been out here for 20 years, and I'm glad I've got to go home to my family every day.
It's very sad to bring us together in something like this, but it shows our respect for the slain officer and the other brothers.
Oregon State Trooper Bret Clodfelter, 34 years old, father of 2, shot in the back of his head, execution style, by a man he was transporting in the rear of his squad car.
We're all closer probably than family because we all know what everybody faces, day to day. And when a tragedy like that happens, everybody feels it.
At first they thought as many as 800 police might show. In fact, it was many more, arriving at Little Klamath Falls from all over the nation.
I got a call that a trooper went down, and they asked for a volunteer, and I was on a plane at, call 11:30 at night. At 4:30 I was on a plane.
Flew in from Illinois?
Yes, sir.
Well, I received a phone call from our association Thursday morning. They asked me if I would like to go to Oregon for attend the trooper's funeral, and they gave me a brief summary of what occurred, and I said yes, I'd be honored to go.
At a solemn afternoon service for the slain trooper, his family and 2 young children were there. He was remembered and eulogized.
He was probably one of the hardest working officers that I've known, very dedicated. It's a real tragedy.
Bret Clodfelter was the first Oregon State Trooper murdered on the job in fully a dozen years. The cops who came to Klamath Falls hope they'll not gather again like this for many more. Kathy, Pete, just by coincidence, the man who is accused of killing Trooper Clodfelter, he had his first day in court today. My colleague Larry Shoup is following that story. Larry?
Thank you very much, Walden. Here at the Klamath County Courthouse begins the lengthy legal aspect of the Clodfelter case. It is a case that has sent tremors through this community. District Attorney Ed Caleb arrived at the Klamath County Courthouse for one of the most disturbing cases in recent memory. He will prosecute 28-year-old Francisco Monzo Hernandez, the Mexican national accused of killing Trooper Clodfelter. Monzo Hernandez faced a video arraignment on aggravated murder charges today. The judge would not let our camera in the courtroom. These pictures were taken through a window. Monzo Hernandez is the man in front of the microphone. District Attorney Caleb says the suspect had 7 outstanding arrest warrants, ranging from manufacture of methamphetamine to car theft.
Whether that would rise to the level of murdering a police officer is hard to say. That's quite a chance to take to not be taken into custody.
Caleb's not certain of a motive. He is certain he'll seek the death penalty for Clodfelter's murder. The state trooper died early Wednesday, shot several times in the back of the head. He'd arrested a man for drunk driving. Clodfelter offered the man's 2 passengers a ride. One of those passengers was Monzo Hernandez. Police arrested him Friday, not far from where Clodfelter died. This brutal killing has shocked Klamath Falls. Some people who live here now look at their city in a different light.
I think it shakes up the whole community, and really, it scares us to realize that things like this are going to happen here.
Well, I think the whole community was shocked and very upset about any killing, but especially a police officer and cold-bloodedness.
I'm from Southern California, so stuff like that happens all the time. But here, this is such a quiet community.
It is a community that has also come together in the wake of Bret Clodfelter's brutal murder.
Everybody sort of turns off their television set and comes out and says, what can we do to help? And that's for the last 4 or 5 days, that's all we've gotten is help from this community. They wanted this guy in custody bad.
Francisco Monzo Hernandez is now in custody, but Klamath Falls remains in a state of shock. Monzo Hernandez will be in court again on Monday for a preliminary hearing. Pete and Kathy, back to you.
Larry, if the outstanding warrants were not a motive, what could have the motive been?
Well, first of all, that is if Monzo Hernandez, in fact, did commit this crime. He has been convicted of nothing yet. He was just arraigned today. But talking to people here around the courthouse and other people close to the case, they said that Monzo Hernandez is very unstable. One person called him crazy, as a matter of fact. We mentioned 7 outstanding warrants. He has been in trouble his whole entire career here in the United States, down in California, as well as up here in Klamath Falls, Oregon. So he came in, supposedly says he is a migrant worker. Talking to D.A. Caleb today, he said he doesn't think that Mr. Monzo Hernandez has ever done any migrant work. He's been in trouble his entire stay here in the United States.
Okay, thanks very much. Larry Shoup and Walden Kirsch reporting from Klamath Falls tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. A solemn procession of police and emergency vehicles wound their way through Klamath Falls today. It was all part of the city's effort to honor Oregon State Police Trooper Bret Robert Clodfelter, who was killed last week. The procession was made up of over 300 vehicles that slowly rolled down Main Street on their way to Oregon Tech for the funeral. Some police officers drove in from as far away as Washington State, Portland, and California, and several fire engines and ambulances passed through as well. Most of the crowd gathered along Main Street watched silently as the police cars rolled past, and many were impressed with the unity shown by police officers from all over the country.
I think it's a unifying.
It shows that we stand by our community. I didn't think this many people would show up for a policeman none of us knew.
It's very sad. It's really, really very sad. I was telling my daughter that 20 years ago you never heard of a policeman being killed. And now even the criminals have lost what respect they had for the police.
800-plus officers from just about every state in the Union were on hand today to pay their last respects to OSP Trooper Bret Clodfelter. Clodfelter was killed in the line of duty last Wednesday. Officer Clodfelter was remembered as someone who always wanted a career in law enforcement. A fellow officer from the Dalles served with Clodfelter for nearly 7 years, and today offered some words of encouragement to the Clodfelter family.
We've all gathered here today not only to honor Bret for the fine person he was, but we also want you to know that we're also gathered here to share in your sorrow. Bret will always be remembered, and he'll be missed by all of us.
At the time of Bret's death, he was 34 years old. The next day, he would have been promoted to senior trooper. There is nothing that we can do to bring Bret back. However, his memory will always be with us.